Erica Washington. We call her Erica Fox on WJAB. So she is moderating, so I'm going to turn it over to her. But first, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Alpha Phi Alpha Breakfast, Unity Breakfast, for increasing the number of people that showed up without. But it's great, and I'm honored that you are here sharing this time with us. So, Erica.
Right now, I would like our panelists to introduce themselves to all of you.
Good evening. I'm Jessie Zucknick-Kimbugway. I'm the head athletic trainer at Alabama A&M University and a certified athletic trainer with Huntsville Hospital.
Good evening, Samika Randall. I'm the head coach here at Alabama A&M for the women's basketball team. I played professionally, played at college at the University of Tennessee as well.
Good evening, I'm Rashad Moore, retired NFL player, born and raised right here in Huntsville, went to Johnson High School.
I'm Ray Green. I work with the City of Huntsville Recreation Department.
And I'm Michael Stevenson. I'm the program manager for Huntsville Hospital Sports Center. I'm also a certified athletic trainer.
So we basically have the wide spectrum of what we just watched up on the screen. And I'm really kind of curious because I really want to start with everybody, but I think I want to start with Coach Randall here because she's with basketball. And you don't see a whole lot of collisions like that, but you do see, I guess, in the paint and that pick, trying to block the pick, is that right? Blocking the pick, and the elbows, yes. What goes through your mind when you see some of your players possibly having to go through something like that, getting hit like that?
Well, the first thing you want to make sure they're okay. We all have the interests of the player at heart. We want players to be honest, and I think the biggest thing that I can say, and this is coming from playing, to tell the truth. And a lot of times what you see with players are if they're having a bad game, they'll automatically tend to go, oh, you know, I think I got a concussion, and then we obviously listen to our trainer. We hold them out and we don't practice them nor we play them. But the next game, the kids are like, Coach, can I go? Can I go? And what we do is follow proper protocol. So it's really important from watching this that student athletes be upfront and honest about what's going on, and if the symptoms are real, be truthful about it. I know as a former player, we're in Key, and this is going back to Tennessee. I wanted to play, and I got my bell rung, as they call it. But you better believe I wanted to get back out on the floor. And so my trainer was Jenny Moshag, who is unbelievable. She watched me and made me pretty much stay in the locker room overnight just to clear me before I played. But I got wrong. It wasn't what I would call a serious concussion, but it was one that she helped me out, and it was a day-to-day thing. So I always tell student athletes, be honest about it, and don't tell a fib about it, say because you had a bad game.
So what about from a trainer's perspective? Do you find that the athletes are truthful, or can you really read them? Are they truthful, or do they really need to sit down?
I have to say that we do a lot of education at Alabama A&M, so I think most of our athletes are being truthful with us. At the beginning of every single year, we make them watch concussion videos. If anybody's ever heard of Preston Pleverty's, you can YouTube that one too, and make my football players and my basketball players watch that every year, and it does a great job of showing the impacts of what can happen if you get a second impact syndrome. And so second impact syndrome is where you get one concussion and you don't report it, and you go back out and you play again and you get sustained a second concussion within a short amount of time, and that can lead to, serious problems as far as paralyzation, immediate brain damage. You won't have to wait for a couple of years. You can get it immediately because you didn't give your brain time to heal properly. So I do make my kids watch that every single year. And because we do that, we also put the pressure on teammates to report symptoms of a concussion. Let's face it, we see 350 student athletes every day. We don't know every single one of them on a one-on-one personal basis. However, the teammates, the coaches, they all know their teammates. They know how they act. They know how they behave on a regular basis. So when they know the signs and symptoms of a concussion, a lot of times they'll report it to us and say, hey, you need to check out so-and-so. They're not acting right. And so they actually tell on each other, which is pretty cool.
Taking care of each other. I know we have several young people here. Any of you that are athletes, girls or boys? Any athletes here? Young people. I say one, some in the back. I'm glad you all are here. Make sure you tell your peers and your fellow athletes they've missed something really, really good here. Rashad, you have firsthand knowledge, I would think. Maybe you're right out there in the thick of things. What position did you play?
I played defensive tackle.
So you get to try to go after the center, make a tackle?
Yeah, I have to go through the center and try to stop the guy with the ball.
So you're the one that's hitting Mike.
Yes.
So
We're hitting each other.
what is that like? What is that experience? Share an experience with us if you would.
Share an experience. I guess the best word to describe it is brutal. I mean, I'm trying my best to get through him, to get to the individual with the ball. Sometimes your head get involved, but as you become a professional, they tend to try to teach you to play in the interior line with your hands. You do more so with your hands than you do with your head on the interior line. But of course, in the midst of a play, you tend to get your head banged as well.
Totally got distracted by this right here. Let's go to Coach Green. And how long have you been coaching?
Oh, too long, I want to tell y'all. I started coaching in 1963 in high school. And actually, I'm still doing it here in town a little bit. But let me say this, I was a player, and I know I've had a concussion, but back then we didn't call it, we didn't even use the word, it was getting your bell rung. And the idea that coaches at that time, you get this macho kind of thing, where you're not tough enough, or you're shucking off what you're supposed to be doing. And a lot of times, we don't know how many kids have been hurt, really, over the past 30, 40 years, because the science is finally catching up with some of the things that have been happening that people have just been sliding off as injuries. One of the main things as a coach, the primary thing is to make sure you have a safe situation for your players. We tested all of our players coming in, each joint and muscle, and so that when they get hurt, before they go back on the field, our trainers would know whether they're 80% or 90% back to where they were when they came in. But a player is going to want to play, and a lot of times the coach lets the lack of safety, or the idea that he wants to win, override his concern for players. And a lot of coaches don't want to admit that, but a lot of them will play a kid because he's a kid they need in the game to play. And my thought was that if our trainer didn't okay him, then we didn't play him. But let me say this, when you're looking at this movie, it's a lot bigger than just football. The NFL, matter of fact, just recently, they've donated, I think, $500 million, but it was donated primarily to teach people how to tackle and that sort of thing. Very little money was spent for concussions until the doctor came up with the research that he had done. And the science really is still out on that. Causation, we think, and probably you'll be a little more about that than me, we think that football and collisions have something to do with it. And we kind of know that. But there's no way to diagnose it until after a person is dead. It's not like some of the diseases that are degenerative when you're living, and you can, like Alzheimer's or dementia, where you know about those kinds of things. So it's not like that. So all the research that they should be doing, they're starting to do now and make it safer. Now, let me say one other thing and I'll finish. I work with Little League sports, and one of the things about head injuries is that it's cumulative. You know, you see people in games get hit, but the thing that you do in practice, you know, every day, you're battling each other. And one of the things that I think as a city that handles youth sports, that we've cut down the number of hours that kids can practice. We talk about seeing the hit. Boo Boo played for me when he was 11. He's about as big then as he is now.
Boo Boo? Boo Boo.
Rashad.
Okay.
But you know, one of the things in football as a defensive player, and he'll tell you this, is that we tell you to see the hit. In other words, you don't dip your head. You want to see what you hit. That way you don't get neck injuries. Most injuries are caused, and the reason I have this idea now about spearing is that you put your head down and you have nothing to protect your neck if you do that. So the idea of kids playing, and we've had a great reduction, not only in Huntsville but around the country, in the number of kids that are playing youth league football because parents are afraid. Now I can say with no uncertainty that in the 25 years that I've worked with the city, I've not seen a serious head injury with a kid playing football. We've had broken bones, you know, broken arms, but nothing as serious as you saw in that film. So if you have a kid that wants to play, make sure that you go out and talk to his coach and watch practice to see that they're not doing stupid things like making kids run into each other from 15 and 20 yards apart. Because most injuries that occur during practice and the accumulation of hits that a person takes during a practice period.
Thank you, Coach. Michael here, we're going to call him Doctor today. And one thing I talked with my uncle about after watching the movie is, you know, you have the players that have the helmets, and the helmets have this hard padding on the inside. And if that's not doing enough, then just, you know, in your professional opinion, what could be done to help protect the brain, which is kind of hard because as Will Smith showed it, the brain is just loose in you know, in our skull, and it's just there in the fluid. So what really can be done? What do you think can be done to protect it better?
That's a hard question. I got the hard one.
Sorry.
The example in the movie is a fantastic example. I've not seen sort of an apple and some fluid in a mason jar, and everybody's kind of hit on it so far. The number one thing we talk about is education. It is about educating the parents and the coaches when necessary. And our program at Huntsville Hospital, I mean, we provide athletic trainers to 18 local high schools. 27 of their feeder middle schools have got access to our athletic trainers. So hopefully by the time those kids start in 7th grade and finish their football career in 12th grade, they've been with us for about 5 years. So we've had 5 opportunities, at least 5 seasons, to try to educate parents on what is a concussion. Every headache is not a concussion. That's the number one thing we tell people. You know, Coach and Rashad can tell you, you put a hard piece of plastic on your head and you run around in August, you're going to have a headache. That makes it very difficult to decipher what is and what is not a head injury. You look at the mechanism of injury, what happens, but we've always told parents it's like taking an egg, a fresh egg straight out of the refrigerator, and you shake it in your hand. The yolk inside it's gonna move around. It's the same idea with your brain and your skull. A concussion is a deceleration injury. It's from where you're moving. You think about when you leave here and get in your car, you drive down the parkway at 50 miles an hour, supposed to be. If you slam your brakes on, you lean forward in your car. When you run on the football field from 15, 20 yards apart and you immediately stop, your brain inside your head keeps moving. And there's really no way to prevent that. So you try to decrease the amount of force sometimes. You do that in practice. You don't hit as hard in practice. You don't let them get as far away. You take away the acceleration. And you hope that that's doing some prevention for the cumulative hits like Coach talked about. But on Friday nights when everybody's full speed and it's wide open, it's hard to prevent those things. So we stress education to the parents. We stress the presence of an athletic trainer, having somebody on the sideline that knows these kids and can spot some sort of funny behavior. If they're not acting right, if they're a little bit off, we pull them off to the side, we talk to them, we try to figure out what's going on before we let them keep playing. It's all about safety and prevention. But you asked the question, is there a way to do that? I don't think there is.
It's so much more than just going in front of the player. Okay, can you see how many fingers do I have up when it comes to a young person or an athlete being hit at all? And I know I was thinking ever since Laura Hall asked me to do this, well, what does concussion have to do with Martin Luther King and it's the holiday? And I think one of the main points is that Dr. King was a game changer when it came to voting, when it came to equal rights, and so many other people that worked with him. And as we could see, that Dr. Omala was definitely a game changer, and I think it's not necessarily a play on words because football is the game, but he has made an impact. He's put it out there. I see why the NFL is hot and salty about this and why they're upset, but it has to be discussed. But if each of you can briefly tell what has been or what was a game changer in your life, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with athletics and sports and what you in science, but what was a game changer that has impacted you? He has the mic. We'll start with Mike. Doctor.
You know, once I got into this field and started working, it was the understanding that, especially in a high school setting as an athletic trainer, I have an opportunity to impact somebody's life every single day. It's a very big deal to me. It's something I stress to our staff at our staff meetings all of the time. Through our program, we touch about 11,000 athletes a year in the Huntsville City School System, Madison County School System, and the Madison City School System. We've got a little over 11,000 student athletes that are in our care, and that's a big deal. That's somebody's child you're taking care of, and that's very important to me. We're not allowed to have a bad day. You know, we have a bad day, we come in, we don't pay attention, something goes wrong, and things can get off the rails in a hurry, and that's somebody's child. So that's, for me, that was when I started athletic training at the high school level. I got a better understanding, really, of what it was like to help people every single day, especially at that level.
It's hard to think anything. Yeah, I also say this. I started out teaching. Didn't have any thoughts of being a coach at the time, although I played. And I got in coaching basically because I made $500 for being an assistant coach.
So money still even rules.
But then I found out something I could do. And then a lot of times when you in the profession you knock around till you find out something that you're good at. And I was good at coaching, but the main reason I stayed in it is because of the effect that you can have on young people. Over the years, I've coached thousands of guys, probably, literally, that are doing great things, and to know you had some small part to play when you get to know them at 17 or 18, you see them at their worst, you see them at their best. They tell you things that they've told me I can't talk to my parents about, and you get a chance to see people that you have an influence on their lives. A lot of people say that. You know, teachers are great examples of that. Everybody looks back. I often tell this example of when you go back to your old high school to see one of your teachers, you never go back to see those teachers that you can get away with anything with. You go back to see those that gave you hell, right? Ones that gave you a tough time. One thing, though, you mentioned about helmets. There's some research, just a caveat, there's some research going on right now. This guy in California, they're working on a new helmet, and they're modeling it after the bumpers on cars from the standpoint of when you hit a car, the bumper gives. It has an inner shell and an outer shell, and he says that when they get it finished, that it'll decrease the concussion rate by 50%. Right now, it's going to be $1,500 a helmet, though, so it's a while in coming. But generally, I don't think you can do much to keep the brain from moving around your head if you get a hard enough hit.
Well, what I saw, the NFL has money so they can afford the helmets. And they're giving back, exactly, giving back to their very own players. Rashad, what was a game changer for you?
Well, I actually have 3 game changers. One of them is actually sitting in the audience, and that's my father.
Raise your hand, Dad. Where are you, Dad?
My father instilled in me hard work, and the other one is here with me in spirit is my grandfather. my great-grandfather, Lem Holden. Lem Holden cut his own grass until he was 92 years old. Wouldn't allow another man to cut his grass.
Game changers make you passionate. Make you passionate.
I remember my father. I was middle school, high school. My dad used to work 7 days a week, sometimes 12 hours. And he would leave work on Friday night to make sure he never missed a football game, basketball game, any type of athletics that I was doing. I don't think I've ever expressed to him how that made me feel. He's never missed a college football game that was in traveling distance, all the way from Huntsville to Arizona. And he showed me what it takes to be a good father. And that's what I try to instill in my kids now. And my third game changer is my best friend. A lot of y'all might have heard of his name. His name is Dante Stallworth. He showed me how to hit rock bottom and not let that be the end. I mean, my best friend was involved. He was on cloud nine. He had just signed a $47 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. At 7, he was take that back. He received a bonus at 12:01 a.m. At 6:58 a.m., he was driving to the beach. A guy ran in the street. He tried to dodge him, and he hit him, and he killed him. And I remember getting on a flight, going to Cleveland about 3 days. I was supposed to be in Orlando with my parents and my kids and my sister and her kids. And I got on a plane, and I said, I'm not going to Orlando. I'm going to Cleveland. And I remember on the way from the airport, it was me, him, and his brother. And he said, bruh, it's over, I'm done. And I told him, I said, that's not you, Dante. I've never heard you talk like that. And we're not gonna talk like that now. We're gonna get through this. My best friend spent a year suspended from the NFL. Didn't think he would ever play again. The Cleveland Browns released him. The Cleveland Browns asked for that $6 million back that they had just gave him at 12 a.m. that night before the wreck. And he was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it. And I was so overjoyed when he called me and he told me, I just signed a 1-year deal worth the league minimum, what that'll do, with the Baltimore Ravens. And he asked me, I just need for you to do one favor for me. And I said, whatever it is. He said, will you move with me? Because I'm not gonna be able to get through this year without you, bro. And I spent from April of 2010 to February 2011 in Baltimore, Maryland with my best friend, Dante. And he showed me that once you hit rock bottom, there's nothing stopping you to get back to the top. And those are my 3 game changers.
I think real quick that goes to what his wife said in the movie. that thing they tell you that you can't do, that's the thing that you need to do. So he went on and did it, and so did you. Applaud you on that. Coach Randall, what was your game changer?
Game changer. I have to start with my mom. My mom worked 2 jobs, single parent, raised some of my sister's kids. My sister had 7 kids by 7 different dads, and state took them all. So my mom went back and got all of them, and they ended up going with some of their fathers, but there were 2 that my mom had to raise. So I have to give her all the credit in the world in terms of how she displayed toughness for me. I can remember, and I got in trouble for this a lot, because I love playing basketball, and I can't tell you how much I loved it. That was me. My mom would cook a meal and go to work, but as soon as I got home, I would take my school clothes off and go play basketball. But she was a smart young lady. She would drive around that block and wait a second, because she knew I was going down to somebody's backyard when I needed to be studying. And she would pull up to that basketball court and embarrass me to get back in that house and go do my schoolwork. So that's my game changer, because she showed me you can do anything, and all you got to do is just keep working and keep pushing. I go to my high school coach who passed away 6 years ago. I was in public school, and public school was tough in Cleveland, Ohio. We were tough students. I can recall us setting a trash can on fire, and our teacher wanting to jump out of the window. We did all kinds of
That's
things.
the thing you don't do.
Yeah, you know. But I had my junior high. I gotta say, my junior high coach put me in contact with my high school coach, and he at private school was tough for me. I was lacking a lot. It was overwhelming for me. But my high school coach stayed with me. My high school coach drove me to take the SAT 7 times, because that's how many times it took me to take the test, to pass it. Back then it was Prop 48, so had I not passed, I would have got an opportunity to go to college, but I wouldn't have been able to play. My high school coach said, "You're going to pass this test." And so he signed me up for the Sylvan Learning Center, to Hooked on Phonics. I had to, because I was in private school, heck, all the nuns were trying to help me add, subtract, work on verbs and everything. But my high school coach never stopped believing in me. Right before my high school coach passed away, he called me, and he sent about 50 of us to Division I programs, and I'm talking to big-time programs, to small programs too. But he took care of all of us. And he told me never to stop working hard and always believe in yourself. I attribute me graduating from college, because it was tough. I graduated in 3 years. I went there on a mission, not to go back to what I was doing before by slacking off. So I give all that credit to my high school coach. I go to the next one, and Rashad knows who this is, Pat Summit. I'm not sure if you guys know what's going on with her, but right now she has dementia, and it's pretty bad. But that lady taught me so much, and she taught many of us a lot. And I can sit here and give you a ton of stories, but one thing she taught us to work hard, to be responsible, and be accountable. And I got into coaching because of her. Because at that time, Title IX was starting. Coach was part of that, and giving women an opportunity to stand for something and believe in something. And so I owe all what I've done to my coaches and to my mom, that I wouldn't be here coaching today. I feel like I'm embarking on that game changer, because I know I haven't won a lot at Alabama A&M, and sometimes you don't get to win because you're trying to teach and mold young women as they get ready to go to the next step. And so although in my heart, I want to win. If we were tying shoes right now, I will beat you. And I will beat you with my eyes closed. But I know that that's not what God's purpose is for me right now. And some of these, our student athletes lack a lot. And so I have to go back and remind them that this is your last chance before you get out into the real world. And no one's going to give you anything. Right. So you got to be ready and prepared, and not take this opportunity coming to college where I give you $26,000 and you slack on it. I have to constantly remind them of that. And Jesse knows they test me every day. Every day. And it's getting different with young student athletes because you lose sight of why you're there. And if I can say this, because I know there's a lot of young people in there, don't take for granted anything, because it can be taken away from you. So always be humble and stay hungry in it, and think good things will work out for you.
Well, my game changer is a little bit on a lighter note. It's my baby girl.
Sarah Ann.
Sarah Ann.
The manager.
The manager, the basketball manager, you know.
Ball girl. We weren't planning on being emotional here.
I like that their testimonials, what they're saying is obviously making them really, really reflect on what has touched them, what has molded all of you, and what is adding to what you all have done and what you're doing. But you're also, without even, I guess, really realizing that you're paying it forward to a lot of us. And I really appreciate the words that you all have shared with all of us. And thank you all so very much. And State Representative Laura Hall, let's give her a round of applause. We want to thank her for putting this together, and hope that you will do it again with another movie that comes out, or even a play or something like that in this city. And I hope that you all will stay involved in what we're doing. And again, really pay attention to the games that you see and pass the word to somebody else to make sure that they really get a chance to come see Concussion. Thank you all so very much. Can we please give a really, really big round of applause for our panel here? I wish we had more time to hear from you all, but we want to thank you so much. And Laura wants to come around, and she wants the mic. Yes, ma'am.
Another round of applause for our panelists and moderator. A round of applause for you all, the participants. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the coordinators, Patrick, Feline, and Winter. So thank them, because listen, I was a chore. That's what they said. I was a chore. But no, really thank them. The volunteers, thank them. But more important, thank you for spending this time this afternoon with us. And I hope you feel like it was worth your time. Yeah. And we'll plan some other things.
I just finished watching the movie Concussion with Will Smith, sponsored by Representative Laura Hall, and I think the movie was really awesome. The doctor was really a game changer. And the movie put me in mind of what's actually going on right now in the city of Flint when the doctor, the pediatrician, tested all the children for the lead poisoning, and she was called a quack and all kind of names, and she persevered. And because of her perseverance and for her concern about the little children and the lead poisoning, now the federal government is involved. So she is definitely a game changer, and I think it's really wonderful what the doctor did. It makes me look at football in a whole different way now. So I thank you, I love the movie, and thank you, Representative Hall.
My name is Willis Ritchie, and I just got through watching the movie Concussion. I think it was a very well done movie. The acting was excellent, and for me, it was very informative in terms of the challenges that the doctor had to face. I'd assumed some of the challenges that he would face, but the wide variety of those that he experienced was enlightening. His integrity was challenged, his professionalism was challenged, there were economic and other challenges that he had to deal with, but he overcame them. And it was a testimony to the assiduous to the way in which he was just really dedicated to making sure that this information got out to help those persons who were subject to concussions. And so I think it's a testimony to someone who was not going to be dissuaded no matter what came his way to stop him from doing what he felt had to be done. Thank you.
My name is Karan White. I'm a 13-year-old 7th grader, and this movie has opened my eyes to see. I've been playing football for next season will be my 10th year, and seeing that I want to be a pro player one day, and seeing that all of this could happen, it's going to open my eyes to take better care of myself, tell trainers to know when I get injured and what I would do. Like that season I broke my arm, I didn't tell anybody, but when it comes to your brain stuff, when you get dizzy, I know to tell people now. So the movie kind of helped me discover that.
I'm William Dawson Carter. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Alabama. Hopefully I'll be a medical student soon. This movie was really eye-opening from a medical standpoint for me. It addressed some of the more hidden problems when it comes down to medicine. And it really shows there's a lot of work that's still out there needed to be done. And it really pushed me to try harder in the future to make sure that everyone's taken care of properly. Just a wonderful man. He did amazing things. And I really hope there's more people out there like them. Thank you.
My name is Tyler Brown. I'm a student at Oakwood University, and this movie was particularly influential to me because coming from a point of public policy, there's always something going on deeper. There's always a fight that's happening that we don't see. And it's due to movies like this and the science and research done by Dr. Omalu that the public is able to, be known that things are happening in this world that we don't know about. And bigger corporations like the NFL or other places try to hide it. But movies like this inform not only, the generations before us, but the generations that come after us, so that we'll be able to be well-informed and safer. If it wasn't for this movie, of course we think about concussions, we think about things that happen when you play sports, but this movie just brings it closer to home and makes it easier for us to understand. So I got a lot out of the movie, and it was really a great show.
My name is Jordan Harris. I'm a senior student leader at Oakwood University. And this movie, Concussion, was a very thought-provoking movie that came and presented a very timely message, being that this is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday, one of the greatest and most transcendent game changers who ever subsisted in this country. And although this movie talked about the turbulent experiences regarding the arena of football, it also presented a very unmistakable message to us as student leaders and as young activists, especially me as an African American male, that although we see maladies in our community, we see that police brutality, although we see that police brutality decimates our communities, when we see the Bureau of Justice releasing statistics saying that 1 in 3 black men will be in prison in his lifetime, when we see cities complaining that they don't have money to build schools but are using millions of dollars to build high-tech prisons, it gives us a strong message that we definitely have a job to do. And this movie presented that message, so I was really glad to watch this movie and learn from it, and also take part in the meaningful dialogue after the movie to give us a greater perspective on how we can view ourselves, our communities, and the task that we have as citizens to better our communities.